Hi, Katelyn. Thank you so much for your poems, your week 3 poems. I'd like to apologize in advance. My voice is kind of a mess because of allergies. They're driving me crazy this week. So forgive me for sounding a little off on this recording. I want to say that overall, I felt like your poems this week were a little bit hurried. I wanted you to spend a little bit more time with these prompts and the crafting of these poems. I definitely felt that in this first one, library puzzle. Um, and it might just be that maybe you just didn't connect with this prompt, which is bound to happen, right? I put out a variety of prompts, and some folks will connect with them super closely and super well each week, and then maybe next week you'll find a prompt that you connect with really, really well, and that might have not happened this week. So I'm not putting that out there with judgment. I'm just saying if you hurried through this one, maybe allow for some more time next week when you're working on these prompts and working on the crafting of these poems. Um, does the conversation have to be in order? I don't know what you mean by that question. Is the transition from the conversation to the poem too abrupt? I don't think so. I mean, I think quoting the first few lines of this poem, which I know from your discussion happened, at the library, and that you were observing and listening to folks doing a puzzle. Um, I think that translates really well because the very next line you say an uncompleted puzzle. Oasis in the desert. As I mentioned in my announcement this week, I love a love poem. Um, I would love to see where you go with your next edit of this poem. I think it's a good start. Oasis in the desert. Um, what I will say is, I think the repetition, my oasis in the desert, is really sweet. I think it's really sweet to think about a person that way. I will say that, oasis in the desert is a little bit of a cliched phrase. So I think it's just something to be aware of. But I do think that you have so many other very original thoughts in this poem. Um, Even just the first line, from the nation with 11 feathers. I love that you're referencing his nation in that way instead of naming it. I think it's really original. I think it's really beautiful. I love knowing his name means luck in French. He works with a wrench. I think all of this is really interesting. Um, what I want to know is, it's sort of like, can you tell me more? I want to know more about this love affair. I want to know more about the time you spent together. I want details um, of where you've been together and what you've done, how you've spent your time, because you describe him and you describe how he makes you feel, but there's not a lot of action in terms of what you have done together in space and time. And so I think that could be really interesting, and a really interesting way to spend a little bit more time developing this poem. So if that feels like a direction you want to go in, of course, no pressure, just a suggestion. But I think it could be a really interesting turn. Thank you so much for your work this week, Caitlin, and I look forward to reading more of your work.